morning, Stampers. Welcome to Learning with Friends. I am Pat Fairless from Fairless Stamp and Flair, and I have something a little bit different today. I'm going to show you a different way to use something that you probably have in your stash. If you've been crafting for any amount of time, we all probably have some of these masks or stencils. These things here. We call them decorative masks now. In the past, we've called them stencils. And usually what we use them for is inking a pattern with our blending brushes, right? And that's what they're made for. And that's their main purpose in life. But I'm going to show you something to get a little bit more use out of these masks. So I'm going to start with that one. Let me go ahead and flip to my desk camera and show you how to do it. So you don't need much. You need obviously a mask, and I am going to use, these are the Link Together decorative masks. The last time I checked, these were still available on the last chance list. Now I am pre-recording these, so they may or may not still be available. I don't know. But you can use any mask that you have for this. I'm just using this one. I'm going to actually show you two different, kind of like three different ways to do this. But the emboss, what we're going to do is we're going to emboss our cardstock with this. So we need a Stampin' Cut and Emboss or some sort of an embossing machine. Now I'm going to show you it with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss because that's what I have. And I'm going to show you the sandwich that you have to make using this machine. If you have a different machine, you probably will have to play around a little bit to find the best sandwich because every machine is different. And so it took some experimentation for me as well to figure this out. And I'm going to show you the sandwich I came up with, and I will put one of these cards that we made today. I'll put a link to it in my description down below. But this is the sandwich I am using. With my Stampin' Cut and Emboss, I have my base plate, plate number 1, and then a plate number 3, which are these clear guys here. And the next item is a rubber mat. Now, I have, like I said, I found these in my stash. Stampin' Up! Actually used to sell these when we had the Big Shot machine, but there were three different things in here. There's this rubber mat that is really quite thin. And there was also this little plastic mat to use as a shim. And then the third one was this little heavier rubber mat, and that's what I'm using. This is about 2 millimeters thick, which is around a 16th, probably between a 16th and an 8th. I didn't convert it to English, but it is about 2 millimeters thick. And that's the next thing we're going to lay down. Is our rubber mat. Then we're going to place our cardstock on the rubber mat. Okay. And then we're going to place our mask or our stencil, whatever you want to call it. And we'll just lay that over it. I am just going to center mine. You can use a larger piece of paper if you want. You can use this inside, the end size of what you want. And now this is where it gets where I had to play around. And what I found worked best with my machine is plate number 4. Okay, so I laid plate number 4 on here, and I did experiment. So You might find with your machine that this isn't quite enough. Take a piece of cardstock and lay it on here. If you have to put 2 pieces, use 2 pieces. If that's a little bit too much, maybe try copy paper, but just play around with your sandwich to get the right thickness. And then we're going to run this through, okay? And this is going to have a fair amount of effort. And it's harder than most things. But if it's so hard that you can't get it going, then you probably have your sandwich is too thick, all right? You want it to be tight. And what I've noticed when I did this, I don't know if it's going to do it. Yep. All right, I'm going to try to move out of the way so you can see down here, I hope. That rubber mat is actually, can you see it here? It's actually starting to push itself out. And if it's doing that, you've got about the right amount of pressure. And that's all there is to embossing your cardstock with a mask or a stencil. And let me show you. Isn't that cool? And you can use either side. How easy is that? So it's another way to get some more usage out of your mask. Now let me show you. You can use it like this. And I did have a card that I just used the non-colored embossing. The embossing is not quite as heavy as you would get with an embossing folder, but it is definitely very obvious. And it just gives you another way to use your masks, and it gives you different embossed pattern options, right, based on your masks. Now, if I want to, I can take an ink pad, and I just grabbed shaded spruce because that's what I used on my card that I will show you in a minute. And you can just drag this lightly over it. And see the pattern? And you can drag it as much as you want. And then you see, this is what I would probably call the debossed side, although both are embossed. Try it on the other side. This is what I did with my card. And I'm just barely, I'm not putting any pressure. I'm just using the weight of the embossing folder or the ink pad to color that. So you can pick whatever colors you want. Make it look more antique-y if you want. But here's the card that I came up with. I used this side here. And I have Turtley Awesome. Been playing a lot with this one. But you can see it looks like he's got a trellis kind of behind his little cookout here. Isn't that cool? Fun, right? This is Turtley Awesome. I've used it quite a few times already. This is the stamp set. And the little images here, the grill and the turtle, were cut out of the designer series paper. I did stamp and die cut the flowers. There are dies that go with those. So that is one way to do this. Now I'm going to show you another way. And I am going to use a very old mask. I don't even know how many years old this is. It was called Pattern Party Decorative Mask, and it had some little diamond shaped ones, but it had this one, and I thought this one would be fun to try. And I did something a little bit different with this. I took my cardstock, and I just used 6x6 because that's the size of the mask. And you'll see the card that I made with this. I did cut it down. But I took some low-tech tape because you want to keep it, you don't want it to move around. You don't want it to move when it's running through the machine, when you're going to emboss it, and you don't want it to move as we color this. So I'm just going to take this low-tech tape and just kind of wrap it around the stencil to the cardstock on the back, just to make sure it stays in place. Okay. And I probably got that. I'm going to move this over. I don't want it sticking out and the tape sticking someplace on my machine that I don't want it to. So I'll just turn it out. Okay, so let's take this piece and use a mask like we would normally use a mask. We use it to make a colored pattern on here, right? So I grabbed 3 different shades of blue. I've got Blueberry Bushel, Azure Afternoon, and Balmy Blue. I'm just going to start with the darkest and work from the center outward, kind of make an ombre effect. So I've got my blending brushes here. And I hope I pulled my camera away just a little bit more so that you could see it with the embossing better, with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss. So I think you can still see it. It's all right. I'm looking at my camera here and it looks like it's still reasonably easy to see. So I'm just gonna do this here in the center, make it kind of dark. And then I'll just take the Azure Afternoon. This one I really liked how this turned out. This was fun. I could have done it with the one I just showed as well, but I wanted to show you some different ways to kind of use these. So now I'm going to just blend it out. And we'll create an ombre. This one feels like it needs some more ink. Maybe my Azure Afternoon might be a little dry. I'll just do this quickly. I definitely should have inked it. I always figure things out as I'm going through them. I think I thought of it before. So now let's go ahead with the Balmy Blue. And just color in the rest of it. Keep the outside a little lighter. It's just sort of an ombre, darker from the center on out. And you probably understand now I'm going to emboss this with my rubber pad. And when we take off the mask, it is really cool looking because it's colored. The embossed areas are colored, the raised areas, and the rest is still white. So there we go. Now I'm going to take my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine again, and let's get this other mask out of the way. And I'll bring this back. And we'll make the same sandwich. So we've got our base plate, plate number 1, plate number 3, the rubber mat, our cardstock with the stencil, and then plate number 4. And we will run that through. You do have to use a little muscle. And you might also find that some of your masks vary a little bit in thickness. This one, the effort's a little higher than the other one. but I did it before. So, and you can see I move my hand. You can see my rubber mask is oozing out of it, which is what tells me I have the right amount of pressure. At first I thought it meant it was just sliding and not working, but when I get out of here. All right, so here, let's take our tape off. It's stuck pretty good because it really got the pressure, but that kept it and made sure that the cardstock didn't move. The blended area didn't move within the mask. That's what we were trying to do. It'll come off. Just have to get the tape started. Okay. And there we go. And if I tip it, it's really hard for you to see, but this is raised and embossed. And isn't that cool? I thought this was probably my favorite way to do it. Let's use my blending brush first. So let me show you the card that I made with that. This is made with the beautiful butterflies stamp set. Actually, not the stamp set, just the dies. Because I just die cut the dies and stuck it on here. I didn't want to put too much on my background. I did cut it out with a circle. I used the largest deckled circle, but you could use any circle. And you could also cut it into pieces however you want to use it. But this was how I decided to do that. And the sentiments that are on here are from this new stamp set called Sentimental Framing. This is a new one from the new catalog. And it has some beautiful sentiments in it. And the dies that go with it, if it is a bundle, the dies that go with it create frames. So that is that card. And I have one more card I'm going to show you. And for this card, I'm not going to make it. We've seen pretty much all options. I used the Link Together decorative masks, and I used the one that had some little, actually I didn't use those, sorry, I grabbed the wrong pack here. I used these older ones, Artistic Mix, and I used this one here. And I thought it might not turn out because it's much finer, less open space, and so I didn't know how it would work if the paper would actually emboss into the smaller holes. But it did. It worked just great. So you can see each of those little flowers on there. And this one I did not color. I just used it as the texture. This stamp set is also new in the new catalog. It's pretty florals. It is a bundle. There are dies that coordinate. But as you can see, there's no sentiments. So my sentiment here, I used from this Paper Tags stamp set, which is an online exclusive that just came out this month. And then here's the inside. I just stamped those. So that is my 3 cards. Let me bring the other one in. I hope you like that. I hope if you have masks laying around your house, or stencils, whatever you like to call them, pull them out and give it a try. The main thing is you'll need to find your correct sandwich. And this sandwich worked good for me. So I have that in the tutorial, and I'll put a link down below the tutorial So you have that, so you can remember what sandwich I used. All right. You'll probably have to experiment a little bit. I did. It took me, um, I didn't know if I needed to use extra shims on top. But when I went to plate number 4, if I had used plate number 3 on the top, I would have had to add some other shims in the form of cardstock. But that plate number 4 without any shims worked just fine. As you can see, it worked good. So I hope you try it. I hope you learned something different that you didn't know you could do. And share the video with your friends so we can all learn together. And have a great day. God bless. And we'll see you next week with something else. Have a good one.